Okay, we're on the first floor in the front lobby waiting area in the duty station room. We have 8 switches for the interior, and right now, as I explained earlier, at 7 a.m. the lights turn on. However, the switches are locked out. So we're past 7 a.m. right now. So the switches are locked out. So I'm going to show you how we tell the system we're in night mode. So we use the remote and go down to utilities and go down to room mode. And right now we're in normal hours, and that's normal hours setting as the switches are locked out and the lights turn on. We want to use after hours. What the after hours is, that actually happens in real time at 8 p.m. It turns the lights off, but then all the switches are enabled, so anyone could turn the lights on and off. So I'm going to switch this over to after hours. So I use the left and right arrow. Then I press the center button. I could aim it at any one of these IR little windows. This is an IR remote. And then it tells me to point at any IR device. And maybe the camera didn't pick it up, but the lights, other than some of the emergency lights, turned off. And that would be throughout the whole area. The reason I did that is just so I could show you what the switches do. So this will be in the manual. It's just a cheat sheet, and I'll show you what these switches do. So this one, these are all switches, and this one with the scale on it is a dimmer. This one is waiting linear lights. It's zone G, and that's off the blueprints. That might not be important to you, but the descriptions is probably most important, so the person here would know what they do. But the reason this is on a dimmer, and that's the lights in front of the window on the wood ceiling. Now those lights are on a daylight sensor. So what that daylight sensor does, it senses the amount of sunlight coming through those windows and dims those lights accordingly. So it keeps the waiting area at a even foot candle level. So if you wanted to override that, I could actually, if I feel it's still too bright, I could lower it. Or if I wanted to completely override it, if I double tap it, it'll bring those lights to full brightness. The rest of them are just on-off switches. So this one, entry, vestibule, recess lights. Those, I can see them turning on and off in the entry vestibule. The next one is actually a spare switch. The next one is the lobby dome lights. It's these round lights that are in the lobby area, and this one is also just another zone of lobby dome lights, so it's the same type of light. It's just every other one. These are the lobby recess lights, which those are over by the bathroom. This is the linear lights in the waiting room. And this is the lights over the revolving doors. Okay, so this will be in the report, just so you know what they do. You could label these, or put this on the wall. I've created one for every one of these locations in the building. So what I'll do now is, just before we walk away and conclude this, let me go back to daytime mode, so at least the lights are on in the building. So use the remote, go down to the menu to more, go down to utilities, go down to room mode, and then it's already highlighted normal hours, and I want to press normal hours, and the lights I could see throughout the corridors have turned on. The switches are locked out, so the LEDs do turn off, but if I look over my shoulder, I could see none of the lights have actually turned off. Doesn't matter what position you leave them in, I'm just leaving them the way they were. Okay. Okay, we are in the first floor in the med preparation room in the B section. And I've also created a sheet for these 14 switches right here. The sheet that'll be in the manual won't have some markups on it. That was from me doing some work. So ignore all the pencil marks. But what we have here is this one here is a dimmer, and this is the lights actually in this room. So if I dim this, you can see the light over my head getting dimmer. I'll put it back so the camera picks up the rest of this. The next one is it's also a dimmer. It's the lights over the counter, or actually over the desk, and that's also on a dimmer. Turn those off to keep the glare down. This one is a dimmer, and this one is it's around the corner. It's also by the windows, and that's what they call the living room. And the next one is the corridor. Now I think, yeah, it's that corridor over there, which is the 2x2s down the corridor. Actually, there's 2 corridors there, but they're together. And then the next one is that same section. This would be the recessed lights, which are at the very end of the corridors, right over the windows. And this is the sign lights, which lights up the placards outside each bedroom. And this one is the night light inside the bedrooms. It's a little amber light about 1 foot off the ground in each bedroom. Then we come down here and we have the, beyond the desk, there's some 2x2s. And then this one is the recessed lighting on that kind of soffit that goes around the outer edge. And this one is the recessed lights right over the desk. And then the next 4 kind of parallel these 4, but for the 2 hallways down this direction. So again, this is the 2x2s down the hallway. These are the recessed lights at the very end of the hallway. This is the sign lights outside the bedrooms. And this is the bedroom night light, or the step light in each bedroom. So this sheet would have the markups on it, will be in the manual. We're on the second floor in the electric closet. Just going to review scheduling. So the scheduling for the second floor, third floor, fourth floor, fifth floor are all programmed out of this panel. What we're going to be doing is using the remote, and we use it, the infrared remote, and we aim it right at this infrared eye right here in the middle of the panel. On the second floor, you can, if you can't get in this room, you can use any IR device in the corridors, the sensors overhead, to access this same control. But I'll show you from the panel just so you know it's going to be the same thing. So use the remote, and we go down to panel setup, and then it reminds us to aim it at the any IR device. That's what I was saying. So we don't have to go through this every time, but just so you know, location settings, we'll just verify we're in the right place. It says New York, so I'll hit done. Date and time. The date is correct, the time is correct. And at this point you can change it if it's not. Done. The next thing down, panel status, kind of gives us the time again, but it also gives us the longitude, and actually gives us the sunrise time and the sunset time. So that's also based on the 2 things we just said. It knows we're in New York, it knows what time it is, it knows what date it is, so it'll tell you what time sunrise and sunset is. But for the programming, for the schedule, for the floors, you go into panel programming. First thing that comes up is schedules, so I'm going to press that. And the way the scheduling works is each schedule is actually, in its language, an event. So the way I numbered them is starting with event 2, that represents the second floor on. Event 3 is the third floor on. Event 4 is the fourth floor on, and event 5 is the fifth floor on. You need another event to turn those lights off. So I made event 12 kind of in parallel with 2. That's floor 2 off. 13 is floor 3 off. 4 is 4 off. And 15 is 5 off. 14 is 4 off. So this gives you the times I already put in there. And I did the floors separately in the event. Maybe the 5th floor isn't as occupied as other floors, and they may want to turn the lights off earlier or not turn them on at all. And that's why we're going through how to edit this. But currently, I have event 2 at 7:02, the second floor, and I say lights on, but it's actually in its language normal hours. Normal hours is a setting, which means, and I have it written here, turn on the lights and all the public switches are locked out. And that's what I was telling you earlier on the tape downstairs, and we're in the duty station room where the switches were locked out. Well, the same thing here. After 7 a.m., the lights turn on, but the switches are locked out, so people in the corridors can't inadvertently turn lights off all the way down a corridor. And that's the same on all these. The only thing that's different is event 3, which is floor 3, is 7:03, event 4 is 7:04, and event 5 is 7:05, and that's the 4 different floors. I just have them staggered just so there's not an inrush of all the lights turning on at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's the only reason I staggered it. Probably not really necessary with LEDs, but that's how I used to doing it, with incandescent lighting in the past. So to edit any of this, so we'll go back to the remote. So as you can see, it just, when I went into program scheduling, it comes up with event 1. Well, there is no event 1. So I used my right arrow to go to event 2, but it doesn't do anything until I go down, and then it tells me to point and press this main button, and then it pulls the information out of here. So it's just what it says here. Event 2 is normal hours at 7:02, and it doesn't say floor 2 because it just doesn't have that term, but group 2, which also was on here, represents a group of lights. In our case, it's all floor 2. So event 2 turns on, it goes to normal hours at 7:02, and it's group 2 because that's the second floor. If I want to go to 3 and just see what 3 is, go up to 3, right arrow to 3, go down, press it. Now it gives me event 3, which is normal hours, 7:03, group 3. Group 3 is floor 3. Let's go to one of the after hours modes. So we'll go to event 14. So I'll go up to 14, press. So event 14 is after hours, and it's at, now this is in 24-hour clock, so it actually says 20:04, representing 8:04 p.m. And it's group 4 because it's floor 4. One more thing down here, you could change the days. Maybe, let's use that 5th floor as an example. Maybe only on Thursday and Friday they don't have anybody there, so you could not have this happen on Thursday and Friday. So go to active days, and right now it lists all 7 days plus holidays, and they either have a Y or an N next to them, and you could change that. A Y means, yes, that day is, it's going to work on that day. If I use the right arrow to change it to an N, and then scroll down to done, then in this case Monday I made an N, it won't, lights won't turn on Monday. Or in this case we're in event 14, so the lights won't actually turn off on Monday. But I'm not going to change any of that. I'm going to make sure they're all Y's and hit done. And none of that would happen anyway until I scroll down to the last thing here is send. And it's going to tell me to aim it and send it. So any changes you make here don't happen until you send it. Okay. So I didn't make any changes here in the panel, and I'm going to leave this in the panel. But while we're here, let's just go over some of the aspects of the panel itself. So under normal conditions, looking at the main processor, this light is the main one right here. This little red light that's flashing, it actually says config. The technicians refer to that as a heartbeat, so it's supposed to be flashing. If it's solid, steady red, that means there is something wrong. Could be a bad board, could be a short in one of these cables, but there's something wrong. It should always be blinking. The other lights, just as you can see, you might not be able to see the camera, but they're just randomly flashing, and that's normal. It's just talking to all its sister boards. And if there's a problem, we would ask you specifically what light is flashing or not. But the main one is you open the panel, make sure that red one is flashing, and that's the key. What these cables are here is they are Ethernet cables, but they're not Ethernet. These are the cables that go out to all the switches and sensors throughout the corridor. And it even tells you here on the silk screen, caution, not in Ethernet. So don't attempt to plug a computer in there to possibly read something. You're not going to get anything. There's actually voltage on here, so it may damage either the board or the computer, or both. So they just use the convenience of a Cat5 cable to interconnect everything. One of these cables, if it is shorted, could cause the heartbeat to stop and cause a short. Sometimes you may feel this transistor right here, or this one, get almost red hot so you can't touch it. I've found that when there is a short on a cable. This darker red cable here, what this is, this one connects all the panels, in this case this is the end of the line, that's why it's grounded, but this goes up to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. So this connects the whole system together. One is a separate system. There are 3 panels on one, and they're all interconnected, but there's nothing between 2 and anything on one. The blue lights here indicate which relays are on. And there's a schedule here that would tell you what they are. You can manually turn off a light, or maybe you want to test a light. Like this first one here is the corridor general lighting. I could actually press this. You hear a click, little light goes out, the relay opens. Wherever that corridor is, lights just turned off. So you could test lights from within the panel. These 2 are off because they're sign markers and bedroom lights from, those are the, down those corridors, those lights aren't on. The bedroom night lights probably are not on. Well, they're not on in here because from back at the mid-prep, they're turned off. So that's why you see some lights on, some lights off, depending on what's on, what's off. And there are some spares here at the end, some spares here, and that's why these lights aren't on. Okay, so that's everything.